I'm Renchi Megan from Five Elements Martial Arts, and today we're going to cover stances. Japanese word for stances is dachi. So we have yoi, we have masubidachi, we have furudachi, we have zenkutsudachi, kokutsudachi, kibadachi. So we're going to cover how to properly move forward and backwards in our stances, how much weight needs to be on each leg, how to practice going in different directions, what leg should come back to ready position, yoi, just so everyone can remember. So we're going to start with yoi, so ready position. In this position, it's kind of how you show respect while listening, or in between different instructional pieces within your karate class. So this is the respectful way of listening and being ready to go before learning your katas, right, your patterns, or a set of kicks, or new stances, or a set of blocks. This shows that the instructor that's speaking, you're like, yes, I'm listening, like I'm totally focusing, I'm ready to rock. So this is yoi, ready. So masubidachi is informal attention stance. So this one is your back is straight, your shoulders are back, heels and toes are together. This is kind of a universal bow. So different styles require different forms of presenting bows. I mean, you have very traditional karate bows, you have very traditional taekwondo bows, you have very traditional kung fu bows, right? And then you have basically a universal informal bowing, which just helps to exchange that respect between you and whoever you're bowing to. So this is with your eyes up, you still have a nice attention posture, so shoulders are back, chest is forward, head is held high, arms are by your side, feet are together, masubidachi, and you nice and respectfully bow to the person that you're supposed to be. That could be a partner for your sparring, that could be bowing to a set of judges or referees or other black belts instructors. That could be bowing to the person holding the board for you. So that's the proper informal bowing stance, masubidachi. When you go into yoi, your ready position, you're always moving your left. Left leg always goes into shoulder width apart. And when you go back into that masubidachi, for that attention stance again, you always move the left. Then you go into your proper bow. So that is ready position and informal attention stance. So we're gonna go into furudachi. So furudachi is about shoulder width apart and about shoulder width long, and that's your sparring position. This sparring stance, and you will always predominantly start right leg back sparring stance for basic technical things throughout the karate program. So that is your 3-step sparring, your 2-step sparring, your 1-step sparring, ippon kumite, slow motion sparring or fighting. And as well, the right leg back sparring stance. We go into this position in this stance before we normally perform different strikes, different kicks moving forward, paddle drills, shield kicking drills, those things. But also while we're moving, even for point sparring or continuous sparring, it's often right leg back sparring stance. With most people, they are right hand dominant. So for them, their strong side should be behind them, which is why furudachi is normally right leg back sparring stance, is traditionally right side is stronger, that should be the side to the back. If you want to kind of think a bit on different terms, thunder, lightning, this is kind of annoying and intimidating. This one's the one that causes damage, hospital, morgue, right? But if you are left-handed, you will often go right leg forward in your furudachi. In my particular case, I'm right-handed, but I spar as a southpaw. So my more comfortable sparring stance, my more comfortable furudachi is actually right leg forward. But we're gonna go from a yoi position to a furudachi into your right leg back sparring stance. Your lead hand, right, which would be my left one, is in front of my nose. My right hand is either underneath my chin or beside my cheek. This shows that you are ready to go, that you are guarding and protecting your face and your body. Your elbows are tucked in. There is no chicken wings happening in your sparring stance with your sparring arms, and this is how you would proceed. This is also in the attacker stance how you need to be when you're attacking for your Ippon Kumite, which is your 3-step, your 2-step, 1-step sparring, is this way. We're gonna go back to Yoi position, your ready position, and now we're gonna go through your Zen Kutsudachi, which is your front deep stance. In front deep stance, there's 70% of your weight on your front leg, 30% of your weight on your back leg. You wanna be shoulder width apart, and every body type is a little bit different, so you wanna have the most stability and balance that you possibly can within this stance in a reasonable way. So some people might be an inch or two wider or an inch or two more narrow in order to keep balance and make sure that their hips are forward, their knees are forward, their toes are forward, their chest, belly button, like hip bones are directly forward. In front deep stance, Zen Kutsudachi, it is exactly what it says it is. It is front deep stance. You are Shomen position, which means chest, stomach, core, forward, Shomen. So how we're gonna go into our Zen Kutsudachi is I'm gonna back up, we're gonna step forward and back for a couple. Everybody please practice at the same time. Work through feeling the mat with your feet, right? We don't wanna be walking like T-Rexes within our stances. We wanna be gliding along the floor, feeling if we are landing in a safe, balanced position each time. You should be able to feel the ground with your feet, accomplish a balanced, strong stance with your eyes closed. You shouldn't need to look at exactly what your feet are doing or how you're moving or how your posture is. You should be able to slide along the floor and know if where you're sliding is a safe spot to land. And you have proper balancing, everything's safe, you can grip your toes into the floor, into the mat, you can push your hips forward, you can be making sure that everything is balanced and the weight distribution is appropriate for the stance. You really want to lock out your back knee, depending on your hip flexibility and your hip flexor flexibility. Sometimes that's easier said than done. So there is times when you really need to work on locking that back knee out and pushing your hip flexor forward and building up the strength and flexibility in your hips. So we're gonna step back, we're gonna go Zen Kutsudachi, so Yoi position. We are going to step forward with our left. We're gonna keep our hands on our hips. I like keeping my hands on my hips because I wanna make sure that my elbows are pointing directly to the side. By doing this, I make sure that my chest is forward. I have 70% of my weight on my front leg, 30% of my weight on my back leg, and I'm projecting the appropriate part of my body forward for maximum amount of power. Because when I'm punching, I don't want to punch like this. I want to punch with my whole body into my strike because I want to make sure that I have power for my entire body, not just for my fist and arm. So in our front deep stance, in our Zen Kutsudachi, you are protecting all of your power, all your muscles, everything completely forward towards that target. So we're in our Yoi position. We're going to put our hands on our hips. Left leg slides into the right. I'm bending my supporting leg, my right leg a little bit because I don't want to lean my head forward and stick my butt out. I want to make sure that I have proper weight distribution underneath me and that I'm centered and balanced. As I slide out, I'm going diagonally. It's almost like I'm drawing a V when I step from where my back leg starts to recentering for balance and then going off to make sure that I'm shoulder width apart when I land. So I've come into my right leg, I'm going to slide diagonally, and my left leg is going to be forward in my Zen Kutsudachi. My back is straight, I'm pushing my hips forward, I'm pushing both my heels into the ground. Okay? Then we're going to step with our left. So you're going to come in, keep your knees bent. You don't want your head bobbing up and down. You want to try to keep it as smooth and straight and precise as you can. You don't want this, right? You want to be smooth, feeling the ground with your feet. Okay, pushing your heels into the ground, trying to keep your toes forward, chest forward, hips forward. Right leg still stays bent. You slide your left to your right, then you slide out, drawing that V on the floor, making sure you have balance and that you're shoulder width apart. So now with our right leg, in, out into our nice Zen Kutsudachis. In, out. Feeling the ground with our feet, locking down our stance, making sure we have lots of balance. In, and slide out. Hips are forward, chest is forward, you're nice and strong. You can feel some tension on your hip flexors. We're going to go back. So now the weight transfer has to go from the front leg into the back leg. So as we step back, we need to shift that weight into our back leg, our left leg. When we finish that stance, when we actually finish stepping, we should feel that our weight, 70% is on our front, 30 is on our back. So we shift our weight, slide our front leg in, we're still drawing that V on the floor, and we're sliding back and locking it out. Right, hips forward, knees forward, nice and strong posture. Shifting your weight now to your back leg, your right leg, shift. Go in and out with your feet, sliding backwards. Shift, slide, step back. Shift, slide, step back. Now go forward. Shifting to the front leg. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. You're making all those leg muscles so much stronger. This is wicked awesome training, right, for your quads, your glutes, and your hamstrings. It's very, very, very important. Each bit of karate helps out a different piece. So this is our balance and our stability to help us block and punch way more effectively with more balance and more power, but you're also training your legs to kick way stronger. So we're gonna go backwards, itch, knee, san, chi. Okay, very good. Let's go back up to yoi, ready? Good, we're gonna shake those legs out. Let's work on our Kokutsudachi. That's our back stance. So it should technically be the opposite of a Zenkutsudachi, where 70% of our weight should be on our back leg, 30 should be in our front. I find that in back stance, it's more like 60-40. I still wanna protect my lead leg, so I need to make sure that it's bent pretty substantially and that my weight distribution is more central. So even though I am leaning a lot more on my back leg in a Kokutsudachi in my back stance, I'm being very, very careful not to lean back way too much. So I still have my centering and I still have a lot of balance. And my legs should be like activated and strong. My knees should be pushed out. My lead toe is always the direction that I'm going. My rear big toe is always sideways. So it makes the shape of an L. Different martial arts have a different back stance or L stance. Some are quite, like they're not very deep. You don't bend your knees very much. Some aren't very wide. What we do is we are about shoulder width apart. So in our Shotokan style, we are shoulder width apart in our Zenkutsudachi, our front deep stance, and our Kokutsudachi, our back stance, which is like a modified L stance. So we're gonna start back. We're gonna start from yoi, ready position. We're gonna go forward in our back stance, or your Kokutsudachi. Left leg's gonna step first. So you wanna put all your weight on your right leg. You still wanna put your hands on your hips, but now, instead of your elbows being side to side, when you lock out your stance, your elbows should be more turned sideways. Your body is ham-knee position, which means your upper body is sideways facing, not forward facing like shomen, like we had in our Zenkutsudachi. So from here, we slide in, we still make a V with our feet, we still slide along the floor, and we are always resetting by bringing our feet together because we know where our feet is, or where our feet are at the moment is the most safe position for us to reset to. Because we might step and realize, oh, it's not safe over here, but we know that all of our weight is in a safe position, so we can make alternate decisions, okay? So you're resetting, you're sliding, you are locking your stance out where your front knee is forward, your back one is sideways, and you sit and you lean back. You're pushing out your knees, your back is straight, body is ham knee, so to the side. Elbows are sideways as well. So now we're gonna move forward, so your weight shifts to your front leg. And you make a V, your hips, when your stance is fully locked down, are going to be sideways. You slide out, sit, lean. Body is sideways, knees are being pushed out, lead toes forward, rear is to the side. Shift, step, lock down. Shift, step, lock down. You use this stance quite often for blocks to the midsection where you're deflecting a strike, for example, with a knife hand behind your back. Inside block, behind your back. Okay, this one is still bent. You still want to keep that knee nice and solid and balanced and safe by still bending it. You don't want to straighten it out. This is bad news bears. If anyone ever happens to kick that leg or kick that kneecap is going to go in all sorts of funky ways. That's not what you want. If something happens where you get swept or your leg gets kicked, it's going to be okay. You supported it, it's balanced, it's protected, it's bent. So now we're going to go backwards. You want to shift your weight to your back leg. So in, back is going to straighten out. Then you're going to slide the same V stepping behind you. Feet make the shape of an L. Okay, body is sideways, trying to push out your knees, working on that hip flexor and hip flexibility, hips forward as much as you can, sitting down. And stepping back. And stepping back. And stepping back. Good. Make sure about 60-40, back is straight, nice and proud, toes are pointing in the appropriate direction. Let's move back to ready position. With our left, back into yoi. Then Mitsubidachi, and right, bow. Okay, so we have Kibadachi. So for the first basic stances, we still have horse stance. We have ready position, attention, sparring, front deep, back stance, and horse stance. So for the first few levels of your karate journey, these are the stances you really need to work on and make sure that you're really proficient and confident at. So you want to make sure that you're not falling over or losing your balance or you're tripping over your feet or your head's bobbing up and down a whole bunch. So you want to practice being nice and gentle and flowing through those stances in a really good way. So Kibadachi is just your horse riding stance. So some people's hips are so amazing and they can completely put their big toes forward within their horse stance position. I have extremely tight hips. I have my whole life. So I actually have to turn my big front toes just slightly off in order to make sure that I sink down and my knees are appropriately bent and I have 50-50 weight distribution between both of my legs. So in my horse riding stance, if my feet are together in Mitsubidachi, it's like heels, toes, heels, toes, heels. Then I sink down into my horse riding stance. So as you guys can see, right, even though my toes are trying to point forward as much as they can, my hips, while still trying to keep my back straight and my knees pushed out and bending, I don't have the hip flexibilities to really force my big toes to the inside. If you can do it, please push yourself and work on your flexibility to do so. If not, if your toes are just slightly off but are very consistent, this is still appropriate. You do not want your bum to be lower than your knees. That's an M stance. This is our Kibadachi, our horse riding stance, and knees are appropriately bent, 50-50. Your bum is just a bit higher than where your knees are. Your back is straight, elbows are to the side. Kibadachi, horse riding stance. And we'll go back up to ready position, and then attention, and bow. So work on all those stances as much as you can. The more you practice, the better you're going to be. Be very gentle with yourself, especially when it comes to flexibility and balance, leg strength, core strength, and forcing your hips forward. That will come. Lots of stretching, lots of training, lots of practicing. And we will see you soon. Keep practicing.